Beneath the rolling tides and the eternal silence of the ocean lies a name whispered with fear: Black Manta. To the world above, he is but a shadow, an armored figure, ruthless and relentless, whose crimson eyes glow like burning embers at the bottom of the sea. But to Arthur Curry, the Aquaman, he is far more than a villain. He is a ghost from the past, a nightmare born from loss, vengeance, and an unquenchable thirst for retribution. The story of Black Manta does not begin with the mask, nor with the weapons that can cut through Atlantean steel. It begins with a boy born into the harshest realities of the human world, raised near the coast, surrounded by the unforgiving waters of the ocean. His childhood was marked not by wonder, but by pain. Accounts vary across comics and adaptations. Some say he was a victim of cruel fate, kidnapped and forced into servitude aboard a ship. Others recall a young man betrayed by those meant to protect him. But one thing remains constant: the ocean, in its vast beauty, became to him a prison. In his youth, he would hear tales of Atlantis, of a world hidden beneath the waves, filled with wonders far beyond human imagination. But while others dreamed, he seethed. For him, Atlantis represented power unattainable, a reminder that the ocean belonged to someone else, someone greater. And at the heart of his resentment grew a name, Aquaman. It is said that, as a boy, Manta once reached out for help, perhaps to be saved from torment, perhaps from chains. But Aquaman, whether through fate or tragic circumstance, was not there to answer. That moment, that absence of mercy, lit the spark of hatred. From then on, every breath Black Manta drew was poisoned by vengeance. Years passed, and the boy became a man, one of unmatched cunning, strength, and obsession. He learned the ways of the sea as others learned the air. He became a master diver, a skilled warrior, and above all, an engineer of death. Forging weapons that could rival Atlantean technology, he built his identity in darkness. The world above knew little of him, but in the shadows of the ocean, a legend began to grow. His first encounters with Aquaman are immortalized in both comics and cinema. In one telling, his father, a ruthless pirate, fell in battle against Aquaman. The sea became his father's grave, and Black Manta's hatred crystallized into a vow to make the king of Atlantis suffer, to strip from him everything he held dear. It was not just about revenge, it was about legacy, a son carrying the weight of a father's death. And so, Black Manta rose. His armor, sleek and obsidian black, became the perfect predator's skin. His helmet, with those iconic crimson lenses, turned him into a monster of the deep, part man, part machine, entirely vengeance. Armed with energy beams capable of piercing the ocean's depths and a blade that gleamed like the fangs of a predator, he became Aquaman's greatest nemesis. The sea, once his prison, became his battlefield. Every clash with Aquaman was not just a fight, it was personal. The water churned with fury, as if the ocean itself rebelled against the hatred that now dwelled in its depths. But beneath the rage, there was still humanity. Black Manta was not a god, nor a king. He was a man who had lost, who had been broken, who sought meaning in destruction. This complexity is what has made him one of DC's most enduring villains. He is not driven by conquest or universal domination like others, but by something far more primal: revenge. Yet destiny would not let his story remain in the shadows. His battles with Aquaman would shake both the surface world and the kingdom of Atlantis, drawing him into conflicts that spanned generations. And as the tides shifted, Black Manta would prove that he was more than a rival. He was a reflection of humanity's darkest depths, a reminder that the greatest monsters are not born in the sea, but in the hearts of men. This was only the beginning, for when vengeance becomes the anchor of one's soul, there is no turning back. The story of Black Manta deepens in the shadows of vengeance, where every decision, every battle, and every betrayal carves deeper scars into his soul. Having been shaped by the trauma of his childhood and the rage that consumed his adolescence, David Hyde now embraces the mantle of Black Manta with a clarity of purpose that borders on obsession. His vendetta against Aquaman is no longer a mere grudge. It has evolved into the defining element of his very existence. In his mind, he is not merely a man in armor. He is the embodiment of wrath, rising from the darkest depths of the ocean. With his genius-level intellect and unmatched skills in engineering, David builds his first advanced diving suit. Sleek, terrifying, and armed with technology beyond most governments' understanding, the suit is not just armor, it is liberation. The wide, glowing red eyes of his helmet become an icon of terror beneath the waves, a symbol that the seas now belong to more than just Atlantis. His weapons, particularly the devastating optic blasts from his helmet, make him a formidable adversary for any opponent. But beneath the steel and circuits lies the driving force of revenge, the desperate need to inflict the same pain upon Aquaman that he believes was once inflicted upon him. Black Manta's early strikes against Aquaman are brutal and personal. He does not care for conquest or fame. He seeks only to dismantle the hero piece by piece. Time and again, their clashes leave trails of destruction in their wake, with entire coastal communities scarred by the aftermath of their battles. For Black Manta, innocent lives are collateral damage in his war. His heart has been hardened to the point where empathy no longer survives. In his eyes, Aquaman stole everything from him, and if others must suffer in order to balance the scales, then so be it. But Black Manta is not simply a lone predator. His ruthlessness and tactical brilliance attract the attention of criminal syndicates, pirate factions, and even organizations operating in the shadows of global politics. He builds alliances not out of loyalty, but as tools to amplify his reach and resources at sea. He becomes a myth, whispered of in fear by sailors and merchants alike. Entire ships vanish without a trace, and rumors speak of a figure with glowing red eyes, dragging vessels into the abyss. With every victory, with every act of terror, his legend grows, and so does his hatred. What makes Black Manta truly dangerous is not only his armor or weapons, but his unwavering determination. Unlike other villains whose motives waver between greed and domination, Manta's cause is singular and unrelenting. He dedicates years to training, augmenting his body, and perfecting his combat skills. Hand to hand, blade to blade, he is a match for the fiercest warriors on land or under the sea. His vendetta sharpens him like a blade, transforming his rage into precision. In his mind, each new advancement, each new upgrade to his suit, is another step closer to the day he will finally end Aquaman's reign. The rivalry between Aquaman and Black Manta escalates into something more than a conflict. It becomes mythic. To the outside world, Aquaman is the protector of the seas, a king and a hero. To Black Manta, he is nothing more than a usurper, a murderer, and the man who must fall at any cost. Their battles become symbols of a larger struggle, one for vengeance and one for justice. Every confrontation is not merely about winning or losing, it is about survival, legacy, and the unbreakable chain of tragedy that binds them together. Yet, deep within the armor of Black Manta, behind the merciless glare of his crimson lenses, there remains a fractured man haunted by the shadows of his past. His rage gives him strength, but it also chains him, consuming his humanity with each passing year. His choices close off the possibility of redemption, and even in moments when victory is within reach, his obsession blinds him. He cannot see beyond vengeance. He cannot imagine a future without it. To David Hyde, Black Manta is no longer a mask, it is who he truly is. As his reign of terror spreads across the oceans, one thing becomes clear. Black Manta is not merely Aquaman's enemy. He is his shadow, the inevitable darkness that follows. The light of the Sea King, where Aquaman fights to unite the oceans and the surface. Manta fights to burn that bridge forever. And in that eternal conflict, Black Manta finds purpose, power, and a terrifying kind of immortality. The depths of the ocean hold many horrors, but none as relentless as the man who chose to make vengeance his throne. Black Manta rises, not as a conqueror, not as a savior, but as the embodiment of wrath itself. And the world both above and below the surface will never forget the crimson glow that cuts through the abyss. Black Manta's rise as a scourge of the seas was not merely the story of a villain consumed by vengeance. It was the tale of a man who turned his grief into obsession, his obsession into purpose, and his purpose into a weapon that could challenge even the king of Atlantis. By the time he cemented his name across both land and ocean, he had become far more than a man. He was an unstoppable force, clad in black armor, with eyes that burned like the deep, red glow of wrath itself. Having taken his first bloody steps toward revenge, Black Manta refined his methods. His hatred for Aquaman, though still the fire that fueled his every breath, evolved into something colder and sharper. Rage was dangerous, but rage refined into strategy was lethal. Manta began building a network of operatives, mercenaries, and smugglers across the globe, using wealth acquired through piracy, theft, and illicit arms trading. He was not just a lone man in a suit anymore. He was the commander of an empire of shadows, a fleet of ships, submarines, and weapons that stretched across oceans unseen. His technology also advanced. The iconic helmet he once forged became a symbol of terror, upgraded through countless iterations. Its laser beams could cut through steel, pierce the walls of Atlantean palaces, and stand against the defenses of a king. Its lenses glowed crimson. In the abyss, a warning that death was near. Each new improvement was not just about power, but about erasing any advantage Aquaman could claim over him. Where Arthur Curry had the might of the seas, Manta would wield the sharpest blades forged by human hands, combined with the cunning of a man unbound by any code of honor. Yet, vengeance is a consuming flame, and Manta's pursuit of Aquaman was not without consequence. His obsession often drove him to cruel extremes, where collateral damage was not a concern. Villagers along coastlines, innocent fishermen, even children, no one was beyond the reach of his fury when Aquaman was involved. The sea became his hunting ground, and humanity itself paid the price. To Manta, these were not innocents, but pawns in a war that Aquaman had started, and that he intended to finish. The hatred between the two men reached a point where the ocean itself seemed divided by their conflict. Aquaman stood for unity between the surface and the depths, while Black Manta stood for domination and revenge. In their clashes, entire reefs were shattered, ships sunk, and waters stained with blood. Their war was not merely personal, it echoed into the politics of Atlantis, forcing kings, queens, and warriors to reckon with Manta's growing power. Despite his monstrous deeds, Manta was not without his own twisted sense of honor. His vendetta had a code. Aquaman must suffer, and suffer he did. Black Manta struck at those closest to Arthur Curry family allies, entire kingdoms seeking to break the king's spirit piece by piece. Each loss Aquaman endured, Manta celebrated as a victory, proof that vengeance was being served drop by drop. In time, the world began to see Manta not just as another criminal of the sea, but as Aquaman's greatest nemesis, his mirror of wrath and sorrow. But in his darkest moments, glimpses of the man beneath the armor still flickered. Manta's crusade was not born of mere greed or a lust for conquest, but from the day his father's blood was spilled, from the life that was stolen, and the void that could never be filled. Some whispered that if that wound had never been carved into his heart, Manta might have been a hero, brilliant man whose genius could have changed the world for good. Instead, fate and fury turned him into one of the deadliest forces it would ever know. The seas trembled at the mention of his name. Nations feared his attacks. Heroes despised his cruelty, and Aquaman never knew peace, for Black Manta always returned like the tide itself. His power grew beyond a single vendetta into something larger, darker, and more dangerous. For Black Manta was no longer just hunting a king. He was hunting a legacy, and he would not rest until it was drowned forever beneath the weight of his vengeance. The tides of war between Black Manta and Aquaman raged on, each encounter leaving scars upon the oceans and the souls of both men. Yet unlike his nemesis, whose mission was often rooted in duty and peace, Manta's path was fueled by something darker, obsession. His vendetta became his very essence, shaping every decision, every strike, every alliance he forged in the shadows. Over time, Black Manta's legacy grew beyond the simple narrative of villainy. To his followers, he became a symbol of unrelenting power, a man who bent the sea itself to his will. To his enemies, he was terror incarnate, the hunter lurking beneath the waves, ready to strike without warning. His battles spanned from the deepest trenches of the ocean to the very heart of Atlantis, where he stood not merely as a man but as the embodiment of wrath. Technology advanced, and with it, so did his arsenal. His armor became nearly impenetrable. His weapons evolved into instruments capable of shattering kingdoms, and his infamous optic blasts carved his name into legend. Yet, beneath the fearsome exterior, one truth remained. Black Manta was a man broken by loss, remade by hatred. Even as he conquered, even as he claimed victories, the specter of his pain haunted him. Revenge could wound, it could destroy, but it could never truly heal. In later years, Manta's story intertwined with the fate of his son, Jackson Hyde, known as Aqualad. A paradox emerged. Black Manta, destroyer of worlds, was also a father, but even this bond could not fully sever the grip of vengeance upon his heart. His relationship with Jackson reflected his eternal struggle. the desire to dominate, yet the undeniable pull of humanity buried deep within him. As the oceans shifted and the tides turned, Black Manta stood unyielding. Whether in defeat or triumph, he remained the shadow in Aquaman's light, the eternal reminder that beneath every kingdom, beneath every crown, lies darkness waiting to rise. His name echoed through history, not as a conqueror of men, but as a force of the sea itself, storm without end, a vengeance without mercy. In the mythos of the multiverse, Black Manta is more than a villain. He is inevitability, the darkness to balance the light, the hunter whose purpose will never fade as long as there is blood in the ocean and power to be claimed. And though Aquaman may forever guard the seas, he will always know one truth, that somewhere, lurking in the depths, Black Manta waits, watching, planning, striking, and the ocean itself will tremble when his vengeance rises again.